Hey guys, Varuna here. This is an event guide for Agents of the Sigillite Warlord, Iota. I've gathered data on 24 Iota decks that were able to do a full 12-win run. I'll be placing the cards into tiers based on the pick rates and the quality of the cards themselves. The data used will be posted at the end of the video. This is how I would rank each of the Agent of the Sigillite Warlords. I also have a guide for second place Tylos Rubio that you can watch if you click on the icon in the upper right hand corner. Here in F tier, all these cards are pretty bad and you should avoid them when drafting. First off is Classified Assignment. Simply put, it's too slow for Iota. All it does is it generates a seal in your deck and allows you to draw a card afterwards. Just skip it. Fierce Tenacity has two problems. One, you have to play it on a troop. Second of all, you'd want one with a lot of HP so that you can use the effect twice. Using it only one time wouldn't be worth it. Most of the time, it's going to be an inferior version of Hidden War, and Hidden War is only a C tier card anyways, so just skip Fierce Tenacity. Emperor's Approval, it's way too slow. For 6 energy for this effect, it's not worth it. Don't get me wrong, when you're ahead in a match, it's great, but when you're behind and this is your one move for your turn 6 play, it's just way too slow. It's going to cause you problems in the long run. Cerberus, Calyxus Assassin, and Knight Varen all have the same problem, and that is that M-Shen exists. And any Agents of the Sigillite Warlord you face against is probably going to have M-Shen. And I want you to imagine a scenario. It's turn 2, they play this. Turn 3, they transform into a card from your deck, and they choose Cerberus, Calyxus Assassin, or Knight Varen. You're going to have a very bad time afterwards. I also want to point out that in the 24 decks I evaluated, none of the successful 12-win runs had Knight Varen, so avoid Knight Varen at the very least. Before diving into C tier, I'd just like to point out that while most of the seals are indeed quite powerful, the fact that you can't guarantee drawing them from the deck makes them an unreliable primary win strategy. So any card that's main focus is to either grab seals from the deck or generate them is always going to be relegated to C tier. Relic of the Old Knight is definitely okay. If you have, say, Inner Chambers in your starting hand, it's nice to be able to return that to the deck and draw 2 cards. Execution Force is really hit or miss. If you happen to hit a solid target with it, like say Ganymus, it's great. But if your opponent never plays the card, then you literally wasted 2 energy for nothing. Oath of the Moment, solid tactic, not much else to say. Covert Operative, the biggest issue with it is it just has no impact to the field, like it can't deal damage to troops, but being able to deal 5 damage to the enemy warlord is definitely nothing to scoff at. It's an okay card. Hidden War, definitely a solid card, great for bringing high health troops down to 1 HP. Malcador's Sigil, definitely great for protecting more vulnerable troops like Aristide Kell or Keeler. Errant Conscript's got the seal thing. Khaled Hassan, solid frontline unit, not much else to say. Palatial Intrigue, if your opponent doesn't play a tactic worth using, then it's kind of bad, but the fact that it can reduce it by 3 is definitely nice. Prometheus would be a B tier card. The big issue with him is that he's outclassed by at least 3 other legendaries, M-Shen, Sword of Truth, and the Cursed Wanderer, which explains why he's only got about a 20% pick rate. Yasu Nagasana, Karayan Squad, and Inner Chambers, they all have the seal gimmick going for them, so they're okay cards. Revuel Arvida, don't get me wrong, his effect is great, but as I mentioned before, Iota's playstyle is very fast, and he's a little on the slow side, so he's an okay pick, don't rely on him too much is all. Most B tier cards are pretty great. New Loyalty and Gaze the Regent are very inexpensive and have nice effects. Aaron Neophyte, very solid body and a very good backlash, not much else to say. Alan Nohai is probably a little underappreciated. Being able to heal for 3 for just 1 energy means that you're going to put a lot of pressure on your opponent to destroy it right away. Burden of Duty, the fact that it can bring back some good cards like M-Shen or Aristide Kell after they've died is nice and reduce their cost. Sigillite Chosen, very strong buff for 4 energy. Not much else to say. It's a very solid card. Malcador's Veteran, definitely a solid card. It's got above average stats in frontline. Vardis Eisen, I think it's great because it puts a lot of pressure on your opponent because they definitely don't want you to use its effect at all. Cursed Wanderer, because Iona only has 30 HP, being able to give her Survivor 8 means that she'll be able to survive into the late game a lot longer, so that's quite nice. Moving into A tier, You might be a little puzzled by Malkador's Circle being here, but I actually think because of Iota's active ability here, he complements her playstyle very well. So you'll probably be able to get numerous 1 energy buffs with him and stuff like that. Ulesadatum, Taliman, Bror, Tearfinger, and Sword of Truth. One thing you should keep in mind is all 3 of these can target the enemy warlord. So say your opponent is hiding behind a hefty frontline unit in the late game. Well, you can just use Sword of Truth to finish them off if they only have 5 HP, so that's quite nice. Ganymus, definitely a very strong card, especially after he's been on the field for a few turns. I'd say after the first time you attack with him, if your opponent doesn't have a response to deal with him right afterwards, he's probably going to snowball you to victory afterwards. Bodvar Bajarki, very strong card. Because he has Ward, that makes him an excellent target for buffs such as Sigillite's Chosen, so definitely use most of your tactics on him for sure. Here are 3 neutral cards you should be looking out for when drafting cards for Iota. Secretary Peltstats, Informant Network, and Doombringer are all great for dealing with problematic stealth troops like Mshen, Aristide Kel, and Ganymus, who all will cause problems if they're not dealt with right away. Finally, we arrive in S tier. These are arguably the best cards to pick when choosing Iota. Mshen can swing games really hard, especially when you use his ability if he happens to pick a high energy troop. The fact that he always requires 2 hits to kill when transformed makes him an incredible nuisance. Euphrates Keeler has incredible value for just 3 energy, and she's essential for basically protecting your more vulnerable troops. Aristide Kel is really strong, he's just not always used correctly. Prior to using his 1 energy ability here, you should really protect him with something like Euphrates Keeler or Sigillite's Chosen, so that he can stay on the field for a long period of time. That way you can continuously deal 5 damage for numerous turns in a row with his active ability here. That concludes this guide for Agents of the Sigillite Warlord, Iota. Thanks for watching. If you want a copy of this guide, you can find it in the description box below. Do you agree with where I've placed each card in the tier list? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Now go out there and get your own 12-win event run.